What's going on, Packer people? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. I could not be more excited about today's episode because we are talking about one of the premier wide receivers in this year's draft, a player that very much could be in play for Green Bay, a receiver that I know a lot of people in Green Bay, a lot of fans are incredibly excited about, and the thought of the one and only Chris Olave potentially coming and becoming a Green Bay Packer is exciting. There's no two ways about it. He is a dynamic playmaker, and we're not going to mess around. We're not going over anything else today. I want to jump right away into Chris Olave, so let's get to it. He is 22 years old in August, so 21 right now. Again, we'll turn 22 in August. He is a true senior out of Ohio State, 6 foot 187, a little bit under Green Bay's usual threshold for where they like their wide receivers at from a weight standpoint, but we'll get to that more in just a moment. He had 65 catches, 936 yards, and 13 touchdowns this past season. So certainly from a productivity standpoint, not quite 1,000 yards, didn't have a ton of catches, but the 13 touchdowns and his touchdown production throughout the course of his career is definitely something worth noting and something we're going to talk about more in just a minute here. From an athletic standpoint, it's a mixed bag a little bit. Now, he didn't do the short shuttle or the 3-cone, two drills that I would have expected him to do very well at based on his route running and his agility and his change of direction. So slightly surprising that he did not run those. However, in those situations, you just go based off the tape and you say, I have no concerns whatsoever about his agility, whether it be a short shuttle 3-cone, just watch the tape and you know that he has more than enough agility to succeed and win at the NFL level. Now, from his explosivity standpoint, a little bit of a mixed bag here, right? So a 4.39 40, fantastic, 94th percentile for wide receivers, a 1.45 10-yard split, 99th percentile for wide receivers. His broad jump was good, about 79th to 80th percentile for wide receivers. His vertical was terrible. Maybe terrible is a slightly strong, but 32-inch vertical, which is really only, actually, no, it is about terrible, about the 20th percentile or 26th percentile, excuse me, for wide receivers. So a little bit of a mixed bag there. His height's okay, 57th percentile. His weight is what really brings him down in the 32nd percentile for weights for wide receiver. But overall, an 8.61 RAS score, or relative athletic score, which is very good. And again, normally a threshold that he would probably pass. He didn't bench press either. His bench would probably bring that score down quite a bit. His agility scores would likely bring that up quite a bit. So it probably equals out, and it's an interesting athletic profile. What it ultimately means is you have to know how to use him. You have to know what he does well. There are things that Chris Olave does incredibly well, which we'll touch base on in just a moment here. There are other things which may have been indicative of his bench press and his weight and his overall strength that he does not do well at all, which we will also get to in just a moment. But overall, a very good overall combine and athletic score, which again, the 4.39 is what really got a lot of people buzzing and glowing. We already knew he was fast, so don't check that box twice, but still elite speed and somebody that's going to have the ability to win in a variety of different ways because of that athletic profile. So let's jump right in to the positives and what makes Chris Olave so exciting, so enticing, and a potential game changer for this Packers offense. The first, and what you love from a speed receiver, well, from any receiver, but certainly somebody who wins with speed, is route running, because you start combining a 4.3 40 speed with nuanced route running, and you have the ability to really be a complete difference maker and game changer and open things up for an offense. He is a very good route runner, and he has nuance to his route running as well. You talk about jab steps, you talk about jukes, you talk about using leverage, hand-eye movement to try to get corners to jump in a certain direction. He knows how to attack space. He stays balanced within his routes. He varies his routes as well. You see him run two different out routes. One time it'll be more of a 90-degree angle. The other time it'll be a little bit more rounded. And there seems to be a plan for that. As I mentioned, he knows how to attack those blind spots. So if he's running a route and the corner gets turned around, he knows exactly what to do in those situations. This is not just a good route runner. This is a nuanced route runner who is using all of his capabilities and all of the tricks of the trade at his disposal, and he's not even fully developed yet in that regards. There are things that he can do with his hands. There are routes that he's going to be able to run better as he becomes a professional. He is already very nuanced as a senior coming out of college, and you would expect him as he starts getting on an NFL regimen and with NFL coaches and to really learn the art and nuance of route running, he's only going to get better in that capacity. So he has a head start over just about anyone else in this wide receiver class based on where his route running is at this point in his career. And then, of course, as we touched base on already, that 4.39 speed. And there are differences in 4.39 speeds. Not all speeds are created equal. And what I love about Chris Olave is it is easy speed. It is comfortable speed. It almost looks like he is just gliding for a stroll in the park. There's no effort given. Like he is just going in and out of his routes as cool and as casual can be while running a 4.39 40 and separating from some of the best corners in college football. That is special. That is an incredible trait because, you can see, and this is no knock on DK Metcalf, who's a special player, but go and watch when he's running that 4.3 40. Imagine when he's, chasing Tyrann Mathieu down the sidelines and that, like, he is giving it everything he has. Like, he looks like a Tyrannosaurus Rex that's like, doing everything he can to chase down Tyrann Mathieu. This is a totally different type of speed. And again, not taking anything away from DK Metcalf. If you're 6'3" behemoth like DK, you're going to run a little bit differently than if you're a 6 foot 180 guy. But Olave has that just pure ability to glide and, again, to have easy, comfortable speed and not almost like look not stressed through the entirety of it. A smoothness, if you will. Again, just making it look easy. And the other things here that I want to touch base on with this is it's very controlled. It is a controlled speed. So he knows how to like sort of throttle the speed. You can think of like a fastball pitcher in baseball, right? Who if they can throw 100 miles per hour, but if it's the same 100 mile per hour pitch every single time, same location, etc., eventually major league hitters are going to catch up with it and they're going to start pounding it into the gaps or worse for home runs, right? You want to be able to vary that up. You want to be able to vary the speed slightly, vary the locations, and you want to make it look different. That's what he has in spades, is the ability to throttle up, throttle down, know when to run full speed, know when to run casually, know how to make, nuance of it and make it so that it's not just the same over and over and over. And again, there's a smoothness within those routes too. It's not just within the speed, it's not just the route running, but it's both of those concepts combined. It's that smooth route running with the smooth 4.39 40, the ability to throttle between speeds, throw defenders off, and then gain separation. And ultimately, that is what Chris Olave is. There are different, right? There's speed sort of gadget wide receivers. There's the more physical, go up and high point a ball wide receivers. There's all different wide receivers. But the wide receiver to me that Chris Olave is he's a separator. He knows how to gain space and separation and make things easy on his quarterback. And as we've really, I think, grown in the NFL, there's been all different eras of what wide receivers win. Like right now, I think we are in an era of separation. And you look at some of the best route runners in the league. You look at the Stephon Diggs, the Terry McLaurins, the Keenan Allens, the Devontae Adams, like those type of wide receivers, they are getting incredible separation against NFL corners and they're making things easy on their quarterbacks. And if you can do that, you can become a very special player. And to me, Chris Olave has that ability to gain separation through all those things we just mentioned, the nuanced route running, the ability to throttle speeds, the 4.39 40, the comfortability, all of that makes him a very dangerous route runner and allows him to gain separation. And one of the other things I'll mention here is he has the ability to separate and win on all levels of the field. So there are certain wide receivers that are just deep wide receivers, and you need to, like Deshaun Jackson, again, we talked about this with some of our other receiver breakdowns, right? But like at this point in his career especially, but even kind of throughout his career, he is winning on the third level. Like that's where Deshaun Jackson wants to win ideally. There are other wide receivers that are more that they want to catch it 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and then make people miss. Tyreek Hill obviously can win everywhere, but think of when Tyreek Hill is behind the line of scrimmage and takes some of those screens and then, jitterbug around. Again, Tyreek Hill can do pretty much everything as well, but that's an example of that type of wide receiver. Where I see Chris Olave, winning is all over the place. I see him winning over the middle of the field. You can use him on drag routes. You can use him on those screens behind the line of scrimmage. He can win deep. He can win intermediate. Wherever you need him to win, he can win because he combines that speed with the nuanced route running. And again, that's what makes him special as a player. And one of the rare traits for somebody of his size and his stature, 6 foot 187, is that he's also a threat in the red zone. There is a reason that he leads Ohio State all time in touchdowns. That is not a small school to lead all time in touchdowns. Whether we're talking Chris Carter's or David Boston's or Terry McLaurin's or Ted Ginn's, or you can go right down the line with as many Ohio State wide receivers as you want to name. 35 touchdowns at Ohio State. And again, that's from a variety of distances at all levels of the field. But his ability to win in the red zone at that size because of his route running ability, again, gives him a leg up on your normal, usual 6 foot 187 wide receiver. Good luck sticking with the guy because with his route running and that speed, makes it very hard to do even in contested areas. And again, so many of these wide receivers that are the smaller, faster, quicker types, they get in the red zone and everything bogs down. And now you don't have the ability to have the threat to win deep. And if you don't have the threat to win deep, then your intermediate stuff starts to, go out the window because more physical corners can be more hands-on with you. There's, you can press the corner, the wide receiver the entire way. There is no 5 yard, all of it's 5 yards, right? So you can just kind of jam the receiver the entire way. Doesn't matter. Olave can still win. And again, that's what makes him special in those sort of situations. As a separator, I really sort of, think of him more as like a Terry McLaurin. McLaurin had a little bit more size, but that's the type of speed and route running ability that I see with Chris Olave, again, both from Ohio State. So it makes some sense there, but that's the type of separator that I see in Olave. Again, we mentioned that he can win on every level of the field, but he also can line up anywhere at wide receiver. And again, so many college wide receivers have one thing that they can do. Maybe they're just a slot receiver. Maybe they're just the right side, left side, but he has played left, right, slot. You go back to last season at Ohio State per Pro Football Focus, 282 snaps on the left side, 279 snaps on the right side, 111 snaps in the slot. You can play him anywhere and everywhere, and he can still get the job done, which again gives him some versatility. And again, something that a coach is really going to want as they start teaching them up and allowing them to play different positions. You don't want to just have to be like, all right, Olave's going in, so he has to play right wide receiver, and then we have to figure out everything from there. The more you can do, the more versatility you have, the better. And again, Olave has that in spades. Fluid change of direction guy. Again, this is why I'm slightly surprised he didn't test from an agility standpoint, but you can see on the field his ability to cut off routes, break in and out, and I don't have any concerns with his change of direction at all. He is a threat with the ball in his hands because of his 4.3 940 speed, but we're going to get to that more in just a moment. You would like to see more out of it, but there's no question that he does have the ability to get the ball in his hands and take it the distance if sort of the conditions are right. And again, more on that in just a moment. Another thing you really want to see from a potential Green Bay wide receiver is the ability to excel on a scramble drill. And we know Aaron Rodgers is going to buy time. We know that he's going to want his receivers to uncover after the initial route breaks down. And that, again, is something that Chris Olave can do very, very well. He does not give up on a play. He comes back to the football. He will gain separation after the fact if need be. And that will be something that Aaron Rodgers finds very valuable. Now, we know Rodgers is playing more in the pocket than he has in the past. And those scramble drills and keeping the play alive aren't as prevalent. But it's still part of Rodgers' game. And the fact that he can still find his way open, come back to the football, and make himself available to the quarterback on those scramble drills will be definitely something that wins over Aaron Rodgers through the course of these next couple of years, or however long would Aaron Rodgers and Chris Olave would play together if this situation would actually come to fruition. He flashes contested catch ability. He will high point a ball. He's not going to be the most physical, aggressive wide receiver. Doesn't have the strongest hands in the world, but I also don't see it as a negative where, you see him going up and making, contested plays and the corners winning all the time. There are a couple of plays he'd like to have back here and there. I think he can be more consistent with it. I think he can get stronger in the NFL, but I don't have any concerns over his contested catch ability either. And it's one thing to have deep speed and the ability to win down the field, but if you're not a great tracker of the football and you don't have the good hands and finishing ability to pay it off, it doesn't matter. And, to some extent, like Ted Ginn is a great example of that, right? Dynamic speed, Corey Bradford, if you remember the old Packers wide receiver, right? Dynamic speed down the field. Bradford's such a great example. Couldn't track the ball and had horrible hands. Like with Corey Bradford, every time he went down for a deep ball, you were hoping for pass interference because like the odds that he was going to come down with the ball were not very great. That's not the case with Olave. He has the ability to have that 4.3 speed, but also track the ball and finish the play, which again, if you can't do those last two, the speed doesn't matter and it becomes irrelevant, but he has the ability to do both of those. And then as we sort of talked about as well with Garrett Wilson, he makes it look very easy. And again, this goes back to the gliding and the comfortability and just how he runs his routes and runs his plays. Never seems to be stressed. Just everything seems to be slow motion for him. And that's when you saw things change for Davante Adams in the NFL. And again, not saying Olave is Davante Adams, but you want to see that controlled confidence and comfortability from a wide receiver. You want to see almost like everyone else is running in slow motion and this player is just running at a different speed at just a casual level. That's what you see in the Stephon Diggses and the Davante Adams. Like everyone else is doing their things in this chaotic 22-person environment and they're just going to the beat of their own drum, almost like nobody else is out on the field. Like they're running drills against air. And that's what I see out of Chris Olave when I watch him play wide receiver. And again, it just shows you the type of special potential that he has at wide receiver. Oh, by the way, also played some special teams. He's blocked 2 punts in his career and has also played as a gunner, which could come in handy as well if they want to use him more on special teams through probably his first couple years at wide receiver. If he's the default wide receiver 1 in Green Bay, which could very well be the case if he's selected, maybe Green Bay doesn't want him out there, but it is something that he has in his back pocket as well. And last but not least, from a positive standpoint, he's also played very well against good competition. Go watch him against Andrew Booth in Clemson and see him just eat him up through the variety of that game. And you'll get the idea of that, going up against better schools, better competition, better corners does not faze him in the slightest. Those are our positives. As we know, there are going to be certain things that every player does not do well. No different for Chris Olave. There is a propensity for him to go out of bounds rather than fight for yards. He is not the most physical wide receiver in the world. He has the slight frame. He's not built physically in the upper body to go and attack people with a stiff arm or try to run through people. And a lot of times you just see him take the easy road and go out of bounds rather than cut something upfield. Now, go watch Minnesota and see him cut a play upfield and take an explosive play. I don't know how long it was, like 60, 70 yards or something. And you see his explosive ability if he decides to make that move and try to get upfield. However, more often than not, you see him sort of take the easy route and just go out of bounds rather than running into contact where he knows he's going to lose that battle. So that is something that just goes to kind of show his overall lack of physicality in the game. He is definitely more of a finesse player. And that gets to his biggest issue. He's not a bad blocker. He is an awful blocker. He is at best, when he's really doing well, at best, I'm going to just sort of be in your way blocker. Lack of effort, lack of consistency, no physicality. Even when he goes out and does his job, the corner can just get right through him. And a lot of times he's not really going even through the motions to do that. Not a bad blocker, a terrible blocker. Now, one of the things he does do well is he will sprint off the ball to get the corner running up the field, acting like it's a pass play, which does work from time to time. And, within the scheme of a play, you can sort of use that to your advantage because corners are so worried about getting beat deep by him that if he takes off running a 9 route down the field, the corner almost inherently has to just turn their back and go run with them, right? So he will run corners out of the play, which is helpful. But from a blocking standpoint, it is ugly. And one of the biggest things I want to say here is this offense with Matt LaFleur, he has made no bones about how important it is to be a blocker on the outside. This is not a crackerjack spread offense where you're going to go 4 or 5 wides and just spread the ball around. This is not that offense. This is, you need to be nuanced in literally everything that you do as a wide receiver, and blocking is a huge part of that. Think of all those screens to the outside where the 2 wide receivers are blocking. Think of the blocking to the outside that opens things up for Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Think about the crackback blocks coming down inside and taking on a linebacker or a safety. You would have major issue. If Green Bay lined up tomorrow with Allen Lazard and then either Randall Cobb or Amari Rodgers in the slot and Chris Olave on the outside, you've got only Lazard who can really block well and have any level of comfortability in a blocking assignment. And you can't just run to his side every time. So you start becoming a shell of what you want offensively because you just don't have the blockers on the outside. And that could become a major issue within this offense based on how Matt LaFleur wants to run things. Now, I'm not saying that you necessarily don't take him because you just have to know what he does well. And heck, you could just use him on obvious passing downs and he still has a ton of value. But if you're taking a guy at 22 overall, which is probably, even if he gets that far where you need to take him, you ideally want him to be a well-rounded player that you don't have to take on, off of the field on specific plays because he can't do certain things. And you also don't want it to be a tell of like, all right, Olave's out, this is going to be a run. So those are all things that you have to consider. And there is definitely concern as to how he can be used on offense if he is such a bad blocker. Could it be something he gets better at? Certainly better, yes, but he's probably never going to be great at it. And again, with Randall Cobb and Amari Rodgers already on the roster, Rodgers could develop into a decent blocker. He showed that at Clemson, but neither are going to be impact blockers. You just start filling out your roster with a lot of non-blockers. Robert Tunyon's basically a non-blocker. And now you have to wonder, can you really run Matt LaFleur's offense the way that you want it to when you have way too many non-blockers on the field? Going back to Olave here, his play strength and thin frame shows itself on a variety of things. We just mentioned, obviously the blocking ability, some of the contested catches, like he's not the biggest guy in the world. Also where it comes into play is yards after contact. Now, again, the 4.39 speed, he has the ability to get the ball up the field and just use his speed and take it the distance at any given time. However, yards after catch were a major issue. 4.2 yards after catch per reception was tied for 323rd in FBS last year per Pro Football Focus. Easy for me to say. 323rd of all college players. Now, per Ben Fennell, from 2019 to 2021, 367 players had 100 plus targets over that time period in college football. Olave ranked 321st out of 376 players in yards after the catch. 321st. Yards after the catch is not his forte. Again, a lot of that we mentioned earlier, his propensity just to run out of bounds, but he's not the most physical player, and that is not what he excels at. You want him to win on the route and make plays down the field. He has the ability with his speed to get up the field and make you pay, but it doesn't happen a ton, and so much more. Often what you will see is him make the catch and either go out of bounds or just not be able to get yards after the catch or yards after contact. And last but not least, he didn't have the highest level of production over 4 seasons, if you look at his total stats, but he did make the most of it. Those 35 touchdowns are a great example of that. And part of that's just playing for Ohio State. They are just churning out NFL wide receivers, playing with Garrett Wilson and all the other Ohio State wide receivers that have been there over the last couple of years. Another probably first rounder next year. So that's part of it. You look at Terry McLaurin. McLaurin had basically no stats, and he's still ultra successful in the NFL. So I'm not concerned over it, but the production, it's not a huge high-level production that you see from some really successful college wide receivers that are making the transition. See a lot of Terry McLaurin and Devontae Smith in his game. Again, McLaurin was 6'1", 204, so a little bit more bulk there. But overall, I see those type of players who are going to win with their route running, great speed, and separation. And that's what I see out of a Chris Olave type player. I don't really think that Olave is necessarily Green Bay's type. Wouldn't shock me if they took him. He sincerely could be gone by 22 as well. Don't think they trade up for him. That doesn't seem like something that they would do. And again, based on his profile and how he wins, again, I'm not sure he's a perfect fit for this Matt LaFleur offense, but there is zero doubt that he would probably be he would be Green Bay's 1A wide receiver as of right now. And you need players. You might have to change your scheme and your system a little bit if you want to win right now, and that's the best player that you can get to go out and separate at wide receiver. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices to be able to put the best team out on the field. If that's getting Chris Olave, then you go out and get Chris Olave and you let him separate and do work on the outside. And again, it should be noted here, Devontae was not a great blocker. He was better than Olave, but he's not a great blocker. He didn't do much to help that cause. So they can get away with Devontae being a bad blocker. They can probably get away with Chris Olave not being a great blocker either. That is going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be right back here tomorrow with an all-new episode, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.